Welcome to the Saturday Cup of Joe podcast. This podcast is dedicated to EAS employees of the U.S. Postal Service and members of the National Association of Postal Supervisors. So, pour yourself a cup of coffee and join us for today's episode. And now, here's your host, Robert Wakefield.
Good morning, Branch 32, and good morning to all of our EAS friends across the country. Welcome to the Saturday Cup of Joe podcast, presented by the Nashville Post Office Credit Union. I'm your host, Robert Wakefield, president of NAPS Branch 32. Thank you, studio audience. It's great to have you all here. So let's go ahead and let's pour that first cup. You know, you have to be doing something right if you've been around for 99 years. The Nashville Post Office Credit Union has providing postal employees and their families with services that they need for almost a century. They'll be celebrating their birthday in 2025. Did you know that each individual account is insured by the NCUA up to $250,000? That's right. You know your money is secure, you know your money is safe, and you know that the people at the Nashville Post Office Credit Union will take care of your needs. Visit npocu.org. And for our first cup today, I want to discuss the series that we're going to continue, the series about the benefits of being in NAPS, the National Association of Postal Supervisors. And in the previous episode, I talked about the benefit of advocacy. And I mentioned at the national level how our national officers will take our interests to congressional leaders and policymakers and senators and whatnot. But I forgot to mention how our national officers advocate for members on a regular basis. We have regular conversations or consultatives with the USPS. And so I wanted to look up the word consultative because it's a word I don't use every day, and maybe I should. But this word means giving advice and having only the power to give advice and not to make decisions, and that's kind of what consultatives are. It's the chance for issues that we face as NAPS members to bring it up to our resident officers so they can take these concerns to the Postal Service. As a matter of fact, the latest issue of the Postal Service Supervisor, the Postal Supervisor magazine, the September to October issue on page 12 has the May 14th, 2024 consultative. And I'll just read agenda item 1 here. It says, NAPS has been made aware by EAS employees in the field that a national directive from Postal Headquarters is requiring carrier start times to be uniformly set at 10 a.m. for Sunday Amazon delivery. Why was this directive made? And it goes on, and the Postal Service gives their answer in italics, which I always find comical sometimes. Sometimes their answers, I just don't understand where they're coming from, like the Amazon start times for carriers starting at 10 a.m. Oh, yeah, let's just keep people out there way past start. But that's a whole nother subject. It's a whole nother topic. We may get to that in a future episode. But that was the thing about advocacy that I failed to mention in the last episode. So I wanted to bring that to a close right now. So let's talk about the next item that's in the NAPS recruitment package, and that is the word representation. Now, representation is perhaps the most well-known benefit of being in NAPS, and sometimes I wish it weren't that way, but the reality of it is this is what we're most known for. It is probably the most visible aspect of being in NAPS. And as a member, you get representation in the event that you get in any kind of trouble. Now, we have the ELM 650. It's the 650 section in the ELM that governs disciplinary procedures for non-bargaining unit employees, which we are. It's the basis of our representation. It gives us the rules that we're to follow on the appeals processes, what disciplines are issued, all of those kinds of things is found in the ELM 650. Now, what does this representation look like? Well, in my mind, the whole thing about representation is to protect your rights under the ELM 650. So many times, new non-members or new members don't know what their rights are. And the ELM 650 kind of outlines what those are. And one of the ways that I always try to stress to members of my branch and probably members across the country is that if you have an investigative interview, you have the right to have a representative in there with you, whether it's by phone or Zoom or whatever, sitting right there next to you. You have that right to have your representative with you. The investigative interview process is very important that we get in on the ground floor of what you may be disciplined for. So it's just a great thing to do. We're also part of the appeal procedures as part of this whole representation thing. We'll gather the facts. We request documents from the Postal Service. We try to get the discipline either removed or reduced. That seems to be the main focus. Oftentimes, managers will not remove it, but we can get them to reduce the time it's in your file or get it reduced from a 7-day suspension to a letter of warning, things of that nature. So those are part of the things that we do as far as your appeal procedures are concerned. But there is something that's about NAPS that's very important, and that's if you get into serious trouble. Let's say that you have an adverse reaction, an adverse action such as removal. Now, if they're going to try to remove you, there's a lot of procedures they have to go through. But let's say that we go through all of our appeal processes and everything, and you now have MSPB rights, which is the Merit Systems Protection Board. We then have in NAPS a disciplinary defense fund. And this fund is used for members to represent them at the highest level of adverse action. Our success rate using the DDF is unmatched. And the thing that's so incredible, it's free to all of our members. If you're in the other management association, they require thousands of dollars in advance from their dues-paying members before they'll even listen to it. It's incredible. So the success rate that we have with the DDF and the fact you have access to it for free is a huge, huge benefit of being in NAPS. Now, the goal for NAPS is to educate you to stay out of trouble. And we do that in several different ways. We have local meetings, we have state, we have national conventions. These are all ways that you can educate yourself into staying out of trouble. Now, many do not take advantage of this valuable education and training. They treat NAPS like an insurance policy, which is fine. You get to pick your level of involvement. I've represented many members that I've never met in person. But it's important to know that we're here to represent you, not necessarily to defend you. If you are caught red-handed stealing money from the Postal Service, what can we do to get you out of that? Well, we can protect your rights and make sure that all the procedures are followed. We're not here to defend you taking money, per se, but we're here to represent you to make sure your rights are protected. So, representation is a key benefit of being in NAPS. So we want you to know that is available to you to being a member of this fine organization. Well, that was great. I'm ready for that second cup. Do you know at the Nashville Post Office Credit Union, you can save time and money by applying for a loan online. We strive to be your number one lending source, and you can apply for many of our loans right there off your computer. You can use our electronic signature service to be able to sign your loan documents without ever stepping into our branch. So take advantage of our great loan rates and the convenience of our online loan application. Visit npocu.org. And And it's time for our second cup. And in an earlier podcast, I asked our listeners to send me your most cringe-worthy catchphrase that you're hearing in your circles. And I got a couple of responses on that. Remember, if you've got any questions or you have any comments, send those to SaturdayCupOfJoe@gmail.com. And we'll make this an interactive process. That's kind of what I'm hoping that this second cup or even the first cup will be. But it's for you, it's for NAPS members, it's for the EAS, it's for everyone. So please use that SaturdayCupOfJoe@gmail.com for information that you want to send me. Okay, so here is a couple of them that sent me their most cringeworthy catchphrases that they heard. And one of them is, "You need to improve your time management skills." Okay. All right. Time management. Boy, how many times have we heard that in our careers? My goodness. Yes, I'll be happy to manage my time if you will be happy to answer the phone calls, or if you will be happy to take the customer complaints, or if you'll be happy to fix the machines that are down. I'll get all 12,000 of these items done on my checklist. But I'll need a little help. And typically they say, well, you're not managing your time wisely. And that's not necessarily the case. When you've got 12 hours worth of work on one sheet and you only have 8 hours to do it in, it becomes a math thing after that. So thank you so much, Jamie, for sending that to me there, improving your time management skills. And then here's another one that I've heard from. This one, I forgot where this one came from, but this is a cringeworthy thing that you hear all the time, and it's this right here. "Can everyone see my screen?" Here we go. Yes, the infamous Zoom meeting, and it's amazing how many times you'll hear that every single one. "Can everyone see my screen?" So thank you so much for sending those in to me. And please, like I mentioned just a while ago, anything that you want us to discuss here on the Saturday Cup of Joe podcast, be sure to send it to that email. Okay, so that's going to wind things up. Thank you so much for listening to the Saturday Cup of Joe podcast presented by the Nashville Post Office Credit Union. Now listen, I need your help. This is getting out. The word is getting out there. We're starting to get subscribers all over the place. So please subscribe and share this podcast. This week, as a matter of fact, I heard from Branch 695 out of South Carolina. Thank you so much for reaching out. And also my friend from Virginia, June Marie. Thank you so much, June Marie, for listening as well. So thank you again for listening. I'm Robert Wakefield. And remember, every great weekend starts with a great cup of Joe. Thanks so much for listening. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you for tuning in to the Saturday Cup of Joe podcast. Please note that the views and opinions expressed in this podcast are solely those of Robert Wakefield and do not necessarily reflect the views of the National Association of Postal Supervisors. We welcome your questions and comments, so send those to SaturdayCupOfJoe@gmail.com.